Mike, were you excited yesterday? What a day for Messi. I mean, what a career-defining moment in these semifinals of the World Cup. Now do it in the finals. How about that?
He's checking all the do it in the blank boxes so far, but there's one more step for him. It was incredible to watch. It's not the best he ever played because he had crazy stretches of good form at Barcelona several years ago. But I would say that this is the most impressed I've ever been with Lionel Messi. When you consider his age, everything that's on the line, all the pressure that he's dealing with, the fact that they lost their first match against Saudi Arabia and he had this big galvanizing moment against Mexico, I think this is the most impressed I've ever been with him. And if he does complete this journey and he lifts the World Cup on Sunday, I think one of sports' great debates probably gets tabled for a little bit.
Really?
He put some distance, and we can just appreciate one's greatness because I think...
Distance between him and Ronaldo or him and everyone else?
Well, then you can start the all-time discussion with Pele and Maradona.
Ronaldo sucks. He can't even start.
There you go. Ronaldo's also 2 years older, which
That's
is a little...
on Santos, though, that gas bag.
It was a little unfair because it wasn't exactly like two parallel lines on the same journey right now. But Messi's just been incredible, and I think for the neutral, the casual, the person that's just starting to get into soccer, that maybe checked in every 4 years, even though he won the player of the tournament 8 years ago, I think this is really the first time that that group of people gets it when it comes to Messi, where they truly get what he's capable of and why everybody is breathless when they speak about him.
Argentina making the final made me wish that Portugal had made the final. I mean, Messi held up his end of the bargain here for the ultimate clash of the Titans in their final World Cups against each other. But then it would have been Argentina versus Portugal with Ronaldo on the bench. So
Rupert Murdoch would have put in a phone call. The weirdest thing to me is...
to start Ronaldo?
the weirdest thing to me is...
Hold on a second. Stop. Are you telling me Murdoch calls Santos and tells him, demands that he starts Ronaldo?
Puts in a call.
Okay.
What's weird is, I don't know if you've seen the reaction from the Portugal players, but they were blaming their loss on the fact that they had an Argentinian referee and that the Argentinian referee had this whole campaign that was pro-Messi and anti-Ronaldo. That rivalry...
Little home cooking.
That rivalry... It's in Qatar. That rivalry...
Doesn't matter.
...has permeated...
Tony gets my point.
...a match between Morocco and Portugal. Argentina has nothing to do with this. Lionel Messi has nothing to do with this. Everybody's been super testy with the officials, but that's how deep that personal rivalry is gone, that a player like Pepe, who missed a clear chance on goal, is blaming the official for being Argentinian rather than taking ownership of his own performance.
it is one of those tournaments, though, where no matter where the referee is from, there's some sort of thing that you could say, oh, they're favorite of this team or that team. Like, what country could you be from as a referee where you wouldn't get accused of home cooking?
I would say the referees cannot be from the countries that are playing in the games.
Well,
that
is a rule.
That would be an easy place to start, right?
Well,
that's accurate,
that's accurate, though.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good rule, then.
Beyond that, because then there's rivalries, there's geopolitics, there's all of that. Like, should all the refs be from the United States because we don't care about soccer that much?
I think there's an American still alive in the pool. Some referees have been sent home. I just don't want Anthony Taylor, who's English, doing the final, and I think he's still alive for it.
Well, I mean, England and Argentina,
yeah.
So much history there. He can't ref the World Cup final.
Yeah, there's apparently a choice official that's Moroccan that would be in line for the final, but obviously can't be in the final if Morocco does the improbable and becomes the most shocking World Cup finalist of all time, and that's on the line today against a French team that somehow finds itself here, even though they're defending champions, having survived so many injuries, so much drama in their own right. But you have the classic underdog story today. Stugotz.
Yes.
Does the slipper still fit?
I took Morocco. I mean, I had Morocco getting to the semifinals. I took them to go to the final, but I also have Messi winning that golden boot thing at plus 550 because Chris Felica told me to take it. And so I took it. Andrew Hawkins is with us, by the way.
Andrew Hawkins is just watching us geek out over soccer. I don't know if Andrew's...
You were describing me a couple minutes ago about the fan who checks in every 4 years.
Well, now you finally get it.
Oh, Messi, that guy's pretty good.
Guy's pretty good.
He's 5'7". He's the most dominant. Hell yeah.
Guy's pretty good. Whitty and I were talking about this yesterday on Morally Abhorrent, that we kind of get what Chris Cody was getting at, that the body language, it's never... I always filtered Messi's body language through the Ronaldo prism anyways, and Ronaldo has some of the worst body language there is out there. But Messi does walk a lot when he's on defense, but he's also 35, and some people take it as laziness. It's not that. It's him conserving energy, because when he runs
picking
with the
his
ball at
spots,
his feet,
yeah.
And they credit to this manager for Argentina that I did not believe in at all, and I remain a little confused by his tactics. But yesterday, I finally saw the vision in that it's just everybody else run around like crazy so Messi can conserve his energy and take us to glory. And they knocked out a World Cup runner-up in Croatia, a team that was very organized. I thought they started the game pretty well, and it just took one counter and a brilliantly taken penalty for Messi. And if there's a criticism that you can levy against Messi, is that he's not great on penalties. He buried one super confidently, and that run on the third goal and that assist, he did that against a 20-year-old dynamo that has probably been the best young player of this tournament, one of the most impressive defenders of the tournament in Gvardiol. He tied him into a pretzel.
He plays in the MLS. Well, MLS Houston Dynamo humor there.
Absolute dynamo. He's been fantastic, linked to a lot of European clubs, Gvardiol, and that's a guy at peak fitness, young, fresh legs, and Messi at age 35 just ties him in absolute knots and makes him look bad in a tournament where he's looked stellar. It was breathtaking to watch that third goal in particular, and I don't get why Croatia is complaining about the officials. They lost 3-0. They got played off the park. That's the most dominant Argentina.
No, Argentina did what you have to do to Croatia. They beat them, and then they killed them. And that's what you have to do.
So I think for you, Stugotz, someone that likes to paint these narratives and the GOAT debate and the do it in
Did you
the
say
semifinal.
Pele, by the way? Is that who you're comparing Messi to?
Well, those are the all-time greats. It's Pele, Maradona, Messi, and Cristiano Ronaldo. That's the discussion, I think.
That's the Mount Rushmore of soccer?
Well, men's game, anyways. And
Pulisic's penis, no?
Pulisic's penis, Captain America.
I should have went with Christian's penis.
God. Captain America
I wouldn't have known who you were
Penis-ic.
talking about.
Yeah, thank you.
But
Good job, Billy.
I think you want to see Messi do this against France, no? In the final?
Over
Morocco?
But Morocco, I don't know. It's like a Villanova getting to an NCAA championship game and winning it, 4 corners,
For
park
the younger
bus,
people in our audience, that used to be something that would be uncommon. Villanova making it to the final.
Right.
If you're of a certain age, you're like, what's so
Yeah.
underdoggy
I feel like
about
it's
that?
more like VCU
Right.
or something.
Now Sister Jean does it just about every year.
Yeah,
They're the first
right.
African nation to ever make it to the semifinals. Is that right?
that is 100% correct. But for Messi to check all the cliche boxes and be regarded as the greatest of all time by Stugotz, who is an idiot,
Do it
he
against
needs
France.
to do it against France.
I think I'd still go Pele, to be honest with you.
Well, Pele's personal health is also looming over this tournament. There have been conflicting reports as to whether or not he's in hospice care or he's recovering. So hopefully he's okay. And that's not just another thing hanging over what has been a World Cup that has been morally conflicting. But I hope that the casual soccer fan has gravitated towards Messi in ways that he's probably failed in previous tournaments to do. And that's just let everybody know, Hawkins and Stugotz alike, that he's the GOAT. He's the greatest, at least of this generation. Generationally, you can have GOATs. The game of soccer was totally different when Pele and Maradona were playing. If you watch back some of those World Cup highlights and you just fixate your eyes on the keeper, it's laughable how far that position has come, how far the athleticism has come, how far the height and wingspan has come from that position. It's a totally different game. And Messi, at his small stature, has dominated it for most of your adult lives. And it's really cool to see him do this, and presumably his final World Cup, with the weight of that shirt and the world on his shoulders to step up to the occasion. This is what we tune into the theater of sports for. This is he's chasing Ghost. He's not just playing France or Morocco on Sunday. He's playing against Pele. He's playing against Maradona. He's playing against the European version of Skip Bayless.
Right. We shouldn't make Pele a ghost yet, though, right? I mean, that's
He's chasing ghosts. LeBron is chasing ghosts.
Like Sam Darnold.
I got it.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I get it.
LeBron is chasing the ghost of Michael
Oh, he was
Jordan's
seeing ghosts.
prime playing career. Did you see the Michael Jordan MVP trophy?
No.
You haven't seen that? The NBA announced that the MVP trophy is the Michael Jordan trophy now.
Really?
Well, it's actually
Long overdue.
It's actually the Michael Jordan award for the Kia MVP. It's a Kia.
That's a lot going on there.
It's a bit wordy. I mean,
MAJ
acronym.
MJAK MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had to get Kia in
weird.
there.
Yeah.
But
Well,
they-
of course, you need the sponsor in there.
You probably get goosebumps at all the details of the award itself because everything is an homage to just rings.
Right.
He's got it's 5 sides at the base for the 5 MVPs, and then you get up to this next stage, and it's 6 sides because of the 6 titles that he won, and then
5 golden rings.
it's just everything. It's like 23 inches tall, 23 inches wide, and then like there's this crystal ball at the top. It's 23 inches in circumference. Everything is just a giant tribute.
It's good to see Michael Jordan finally getting his just due.
Finally.
He
Right.
doesn't get his
Right.
due.
Right.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, truly one of the underrated.
I mean, he
names.
should be the logo. Let's be honest.
Basically like George Mikan in retrospect. We just don't talk about him enough.
Same.
Wait, Hawk, are you still into the World Cup even though the United States is out of it? Like, are you still into this thing? You're not. You're not. It doesn't seem like you are.
I try to.
And I don't blame
I'm still
you, by
trying
the
to figure
way.
out what exactly is going on. And be honest with you,
Right.
just because
Offsides can be tricky.
it's like, okay, when does the play clock start? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's where my mind is.
Right.
Oh, when does the play clock end?
When does it end? Yeah, exactly.
That's
It's
also
been the more confusing.
I'm like, man, the
aspect of
game's
this.
over. Oh wait, the game is still going on. This is crazy.
It's ridiculous that one person in that stadium knows how much time is left in the game.
I
right?
love it though.
But
You
Hawk,
do?
It's
You
the
like
fun-
that? Really?
Yeah, I actually do love it.
Hawk, have you come around on soccer? There was this. The sports culture in America was always laugh at soccer, call it boring, and I think over the last 20 years in particular, that's kind of changing as some of the legacy voices are maybe being phased out, and you have these younger voices where it's more normal. Have you come around to appreciate the game? Were you ever someone that didn't appreciate the game?
Yeah, I have. I definitely have a deep appreciation for the game. Like, and it's grown over the years. Not. I wasn't like, oh, I don't know. I was never there. I was just laser focused on what I was focused on, and it's what I knew. It's one of my major regrets that I didn't play soccer. Like, I think I kind of missed the ball there.
Oh, you would have been on the graphic right next to Odell Beckham Jr.
think
and
so?
Russell Westbrook as guys. If we took this team to Qatar, we'd run shit.
I'd be on social media.
Yeah, we'd run shit. I mean, you're the quickest man alive.
Honestly, there was I did a footwork video years ago that went viral, and one of the big soccer blogs were like, man, I wonder if this kind of guy could play soccer. And I'm like, man, is that what you need? Good footwork in soccer? Because I got that.
It helps.
Jeez.
I
really missed the
certainly-
ball there.
Certainly in defense.
Yeah.
Just have your goalkeeper scream away at you and clear it and just keep somebody in front of you. I think you could do that.
Even right now, you're speaking a foreign language to me. I'm like, yeah, no, that's exactly what I would do. That sounds
Dude,
easy.
it's the same as football. See
Yeah.
ball, get ball.
See, okay, that's now you're talking my language, man.
I could see that even though it's the early going of you doing these shows with us, and we deeply appreciate you coming in. You've already realized that sitting in Dan's seat with him not here because of illness is a bad idea. He didn't even glance at that
Heck
chair.
no.
I tried to get him over there because for the comms boxes, but no, he
Heck
just
no.
Wait, Hawk, so you don't blame me because Mike wanted me there yesterday, and I said no.
Yeah, no.
Right.
There's no way. There's nothing he could have said
Right.
to make me sit in that
Is it
chair.
I'm
Those are the
afraid to just
germs?
be in the room, to be honest with you. yeah, the germs, of course. I mean,
I
you
think
were there Saturday night.
germs have a shelf life. I could Lysol the mic sock for you.
Nah.
I was talking about out of respect. You're talking about you don't want to get sick. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not sitting in Dan's chair.
Don't worry, he hasn't been there for over 24 hours. The germs have probably been filtered out through our very aggressive AC system.
They've frozen them.
I don't know enough about what's out there and how long it stays. Like, I'm just.
Could be. I read all these stories
What,
about
Tony? What do you mean?
And Stu, we're gonna keep playing this game. You're gonna keep playing coy on germs. We've had 3 years of figuring out how germs work.
You
Give me a break.
You were at the same event.
Everyone knows
you were
how
getting the
germs
same.
work.
Yeah, you were getting the same spit flung into your eyeball.
In my mouth. I would tell you I've been to 35 events worse than Moss Miami over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
All dead shows. Every one of them.
Germs only last 23 hours as a tribute to Michael Jordan and his greatness. I think.
I always read these stories about how there's some new bacteria that's been encased in ice from the prehistoric age that has just been
Jurassic
rehashed.
Park.
because-
Don't melt it. Don't melt it.
And the AC system here, when it's really cooking, because it's kind of a helter-skelter experience with this AC, when it's really cooking, I can see bacteria encrusted in ice on that microphone, but it's probably... There's no way our AC's been working for 48 consecutive hours. It's just impossible.
Hawk, have you ever seen a quarterback dissected the way we dissect Tua? I have something for Carlin and Canty and Carlin. It's an odd beef I have with them. It's a one-way beef, and I'll get to them in just a second, these guys on ESPN radio. Because they're tearing apart Miami. They did it when the Heat were making a championship run, and now they're doing it to the Dolphins here. But have you ever seen a quarterback, like, it seems like every single pass he makes is dissected by a billion different experts, and none of them seem to want him to succeed.
Yeah.
Like, it's really weird, man.
It actually, I think the two most polarizing quarterbacks in the league are Tua and Lamar Jackson.
Right.
Because they have a very I think, like, people planted their flag in the ground on it, and it's like, when he does well, it's like, man, I got to figure out the ways where I'm right on this. And over time, it becomes harder, and you just continue to debate it until you just hope enough time passes to make sure you're right. Tua, he doesn't deserve it. He like everybody, he has his good games and bad. And
Sure.
He's a young quarterback. I do think Mike McDaniel has been awesome for him over the last couple weeks. Not so much, but it's kind of ridiculous the way that he's become this kind of
Weird.
everlasting topic no matter what his output is.
Right. But no one else is. It seems
No
like
one
he's
else
the
is.
quarterback.
Yeah, he's a villain. He's one of the villain quarterbacks. Every year you got to have one.
It's odd to me because
It's odd to me that everybody forgets how Baker Mayfield was talked about in the media. Just last year, we do this. We have these cult of personality quarterbacks from Tebow to Johnny Manziel.
but why this one?
Even Dak Prescott for a time in his contract extension. They just
Yeah.
some
But
people have that it factor.
Dak's the guy we should be questioning right now because he has similar situation. Very talented team. You're not certain if Dak's the reason they're good, if the Cowboys are the reason they're good,
But
if
he
it's
si- he-
coaching, whatever
He
it
should
is.
sign that contract, but we did this with Joe Flacco. And all of this is far more sinister than just us wondering aloud, is this person good? No, there are metrics on what rates and what
Yeah.
drives the national conversation. Hawk, you've been on some debate shows. You know exactly how analytical they are about their topics, where it seems as it's one note and lazy when I watch the same topics on First Take. They have data to back it up as to why they're discussing these
But
things.
there's like the data you can literally say whatever you want it to if you find the right metric. And that's always my issue with it. And I try to just zoom out and say, okay, and what I'm watching, is this guy making the right throws? Are the receivers catching the ball? Now, you can really dissect it. Is it on his left shoulder, right shoulder going this way? And when he's moving to his left on this down, he's not great. And in the lefty throw, back spiral, blah, blah, blah. But what's his record as a quarterback? And I know that's not a QB stat, but it's how they get paid.
No, it's a great stat.
It's
You're
an
right.
incredible
Yes,
stat. It's
right.
like the
It's a
most
stat they
important
threw at us
stat.
during the Tebow thing, man.
But it's over time. Like the longer it goes and that win percentage sticks, especially in the NFL, yes, it's a team effort, but that matters because there's nothing worse than playing in the NFL in these close games, which a majority of them are close. They're one-score games, no matter how good or bad you are. Then you look across the huddle and you're like, this guy can't make the play to help us win. That is what separates a backup from a starter.
I'm going to pose a question to you guys. Is this not the ceiling of what we thought Tua could be, right, Stu? We talked about him being a scheme quarterback, and if
Yes.
he's in the right system with the right coach, with the right players around him, he can produce like he did at Alabama. All of a sudden, we're seeing that happen. Alex Smith, another guy who is a system quarterback, Andy Reid, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, all those guys, and he had a really good season. Are we just seeing the best of Tua right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think so.
He can't get better than this. I mean, because the last 2 weeks have been pretty bad.
How much better can he get?
I mean, if you look at the season as a whole, he's been damn good. This is a guy that was in the MVP conversation 3 weeks ago. That's not a bad ceiling to have if he sustains just what we saw over the course of a month where it was a relative flat track. I mean, that's a Pro Bowler. That's damn good.
At what point was he a system quarterback? And this is a genuine question because, I wasn't in the scouting of Tua. I remember all the quarterbacks that came out that year, but I remember in college it was like Tua is the man. This is why Jalen Hurts could never play here at Alabama. He has to go because Tua is so good. Was he a system quarterback at that stage?
I don't think so. I think what people are saying is the reason for his success this season is Mike McDaniel and his offense.
I don't think that's a bad thing. Because I would say Matt Ryan was an MVP, and the reason for his success was Kyle Shanahan in that year. Matt Ryan's a good quarterback, but when you have good coaches, it elevates you. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think this is year one. We are 12, 13, whatever, 14 games in to them together. So I think from an ability standpoint, is this his ceiling? They're just getting started. And that means he gets better. He gets better in a system because the more time you have in a system, the better grasp you have of it. Just because he's coming out like gangbusters this year before the last previous couple of weeks doesn't mean that that's the peak.
Hawk, I think I can answer that question. So to me, when
your
you talk
own
about
question,
the question that he posed back to me, which was, is Tua a system quarterback? The thought process for me has always been you've got game managers and you've got game breakers, right? Like I see Tua as a game manager fitting in a specific system that helps him win. I don't think he's the guy that's going to take you a la, I don't know, Lamar Jackson, who's going to just completely change the game, right? Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, guys that can live agnostic of a system because they're just so much better. I think Tua is he was obviously awesome in college, but when you move to this next level, as you know, everything changes. So I think he became a system quarterback because of some of the limitations he has.
Well, also that I think was around the same time of his major hip injury.
Well, he's got 1,000 injuries for sure.
Yeah, that might have changed a little bit how he plays and how he fits into an offense because that was such a major injury that happened towards the end of his college career, and he's probably still in some regards recovering from that therapy.
I mean, I guess if this is the ceiling's pretty good. He has 22 touchdowns and 5 interceptions.
That's good. That's damn good in any generation.
He's pretty accurate. And I say he's pretty accurate because to be one of those game breakers, and it does, that's not something that people are like, oh, that's a super sexy stat because the ball looks a certain way. It doesn't come off the hand like it does with Justin Herbert. But to be, to your point, one of those game breakers, you have to have one thing that you are probably top 5 quarterbacks in. Yes, Lamar is top 5 athletic. He's the most athletic quarterback. Justin Herbert has a top 5, probably the best arm power. Mahomes is obviously great in the top.
Would you consider eyes as a top quality? Because Orlovsky was trying to tell us Tua has the best eyes.
Yep.
That is a real thing. You got to know where to go. There's quarterbacks who can't throw very hard. I will say it that way. To put it nicely, that I've played with. Their anticipation is next level. And so I can't see the route and then throw it. I got to know where you're going. And honestly, Tom Brady is kind of like that. Now, Tua's eyes aren't Tom Brady's, but Tom Brady knows exactly where he's throwing before you even get there. And it's because his understanding of the game is so next level. Now, I don't know if Tua's there yet. He's young. It's hard to get to that level. But he does have that kind of feel and understand exactly where he needs to go with the ball a lot sooner than most people.
Are Tom Brady's eyes Tom Brady's?
There's no telling.
Great question.
Over the last 2 weeks, one of the adjustments that defenses have made that I've read about and heard about is people aren't falling for Tua trying to look off defenders. They're just completely ignoring where his eyes are going.
Mike, he had no time last week.
He's doing play action, but with his eyes, basically. And defenses are kind of adjusting that. Oh, he doesn't go to the first read. He's just looking us off, so we don't have to pay attention to it. And that's part of the adjustment that maybe Tua has to make. What have you seen over the last 2 weeks? I don't know how analytical you are about the game and how much opportunity you've had to watch it. The first one, I think, against San Francisco can be explained by that's a pretty good defense. Kyle Shanahan has a pretty good idea of what Mike McDaniel's tendencies might be.
Absolutely.
It's hard to win on the road in this sport. Okay, chalk it up. Bad day. But the second game against the Los Angeles Chargers was concerning, considering that's not a good defense. And on top of that, they had a bunch of injuries. That matchup-wise, that was the exact type of opponent that Tua and those wide receivers would thrive against, understanding that Waddle has been battling through an injury. Cause for concern that Sunday night?
Not yet, because I kind of felt like the Chargers were gonna get him. Staley, Shanahan, they're all kind of a part of this coaching fraternity.
Right.
Like he was in with the Rams and McVay, and so those games are always the hardest for all of those offensive coaches and defensive coaches alike because they know each other so well. They have this group called the Quarterback Collective. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No.
But they're basically all represented by the same guy. And in the summer, they have like this camp for high school quarterbacks that all those coaches kind of share information and coach with each other in the system. So they know it so well. And so I thought that was going to be a tough matchup for McDaniel. And I'm actually confident that if people are saying, oh, we know that Tua if he's looking this way, he's going that way. Like, those are the adjustments that I trust Mike McDaniel to make. I don't want to say on behalf of Tua, but their system is like that. Like, I don't want to say it's simple, but it does tell you where to go with the football. It takes all the thinking out, and that's why people have so much success. So I actually think they're going to have a pretty strong back half of the season.
I don't like the sharing of information amongst coaches. I don't like that, though. I would be lying to the other coaches.
But on the other hand, we love a good collective.
That's a great collective. Right, but I don't like sharing info. Like, you're competing against these guys, you know?
Yeah.
Don't show me what you got. You know, how much lying is going on, you think, in the offseason there? Like, they don't do the stuff that they say they're going to do. Right?
No, they're like all friends, man. They like go hang out in like Cabo and stuff.
Right. Except Belichick. He's not a part of that collective.
Is Tony going to get devoured by Tuanon for his comments about Tua being a system
He was walking a line.
All I said is that he's playing the best football we've ever seen him play. He's at his ceiling of what he is. There's nothing wrong with what I said.
You said system
game manager,
right?
Not a game breaker.
Can anybody say that he's a game breaker in
said
this
that
room?
He
Can anybody look him in the eyes?
agnostic of a system. Your words.
Yes,
No,
and you
like
also
saying
said you don't love him as a son.
I haven't said that.
Well, you didn't
He's
say
more
that you
should
love
be
him.
more of my
Then
brother
Then say
than
it.
my son.
Then say it.
Say that you love him.
Say
Maybe
that
a
you
cousin?
love him like a son.
Say that you love him.
I mean,
Just
I
say
don't-
it on the front
that
end.
you
I
It
don't
covers
feel
you.
comfortable.
He's got beautiful skin.
He does.
Say something nice about him.
He's got glowing skin. I think he's a great
How are his
left-handed
eyes?
Or his
thrower.
He's the best left-handed quarterback in the NFL.
Currently.
Attaboy.
Feels like he's
That's how you
the
do
only.
it.
I'm trying to think
Yep.
of anybody else who's a lefty quarterback.
Acho
in the
retired.
NFL.
There's a nice little lane there for you, Hawk.
There you go.
I want it.
Tony-
It's a 2-on.
Tony, let me try this. If Tua's on the Chargers, are they 7-6?
No.
I think the Chargers are always 7-6.
It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback.
The Chargers have been
cursed.
7-6 since they made the Super Bowl with Stan Humphries, in my opinion.
And Tony, if Herbert's on the Dolphins, what's their record?
The same.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. What are you doing there?
I'm doing that. The Chargers are not good and the Dolphins are good.
Huh.
So there's no bump for Justin Herbert if he's on the Dolphins. Is he a game breaker?
Yeah.
No,
Whoa.
no.
Oh, wow.
Sorry to say it. He's a
Wow.
game breaker.
How is he a
Tony.
game
He's
breaker,
a
but they're
game
the
breaker.
same
Rest
they have the same
Yeah, how
record?
does the
It would
game
stand
breaker
to
not be
reason the
broken?
Dolphins
How would
would
it
be
not
better.
improve the
Foot-
Dolphins
guys,
You're
at
dead in
all?
this town,
Billy,
Tony.
Billy.
Guys,
Billy's coming
football
for
is
you.
weird.
Billy,
Football
get
is
him.
weird.
You don't
So you
know.
don't
get
need a
him.
game breaker
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
You don't need a game
You
breaker to
don't.
be better.
You don't.
Okay.
You
So-
don't.
So two is great then, right?
That's what I'm saying. He
Okay.
is at the ceiling of
All right, we're
what.
almost back.
It
Yeah,
sounds like
almost.
you're saying he's just as good as Herbert.
Yeah.
No, well-
he's just saying he's at
You're
his
not,
ceiling, but
Tony.
his
I'm
ceiling
saying-
is he's the best
Tony.
young quarterback in the NFL.
But
I'm
Herbert
s-
couldn't do any better than him.
No.
Tony, what you're saying is Herbert, and by the way, I
You're with me
agree
on
with
this. You're
you.
with me on
Whoa,
this.
you agree with him?
I don't care.
Uh-oh.
Don't agree with
okay?
him.
I don't care what the listeners say.
No. You, I care
you don't
about
want
you,
to
Talk
man.
to me,
Smoke.
Stu.
Just
Let's talk it
listen
out.
to me.
Just say you love Tua.
There are
Like a
two
son.
types of
I love Tua.
quarterbacks. I love Tua, like
Can
a
you-
son. I picked him to go to the Super Bowl. He's the Super Bowl MVP
I
to
s-
get there.
I made him the godfather of my child.
Yeah.
He
That's
knows
how
how
much
to
I
play the
love him.
game.
You one up me.
So guys, can you, before you agree with him, explain to the rest of us what his point was?
The point is, there are certain quarterbacks where if they go to any team, that team automatically becomes better because they are there. And what Tony is saying is Tua is not one of those guys.
But he said Herbert is not
You-
also.
Well, he said that Herbert is, and then he backed off because he's afraid of Tua. That's exactly
All I'm
what
saying
happened
is
there.
that what are the Dolphins
Just
right
say
now?
what you want to
8-4?
say. Yeah.
Dolphins are 8-4 right now.
I sent Tua a Christmas present.
Did you send him a Christmas
Yeah.
I
card?
asked the Dolphins
Did you
what's his
really?
address, and I sent him an espresso.
Wow.
That's nice of you.
That is
Mike.
nice.
Well, it's all the joy that he's brought me. It's the least I could do.
I was in a white elephant with Tua, and I spent more money on his gift than $20 limit. So
Wow.
Is there vastly like a huge difference between like the standard Nespresso and like the high end Nespresso, unless you're using like the frother and stuff? Because I feel like once you get an espresso and you have the pods, it's just an espresso, right? Like the bells and whistles. Do you need to spend like $150 more on an updated version?
Ooh, I like the conventional Italiano coffee.
I've only tried the basic version, Billy, but I do appreciate your attempts to bail out Tony here. It seems that you are indeed friends off air, even though you feud on air.
Look, I'll
Tony,
say
it's
this.
out what you're saying.
Am I hurting the earth every time I have a coffee?
Yes.
I do worry
probably.
about that. Yeah.
Because you have to take the Nespresso pods to a Nespresso store, and I gotta be honest with you, I don't.
I do that.
I know
actually.
I've seen
What do
you
you
do that.
mean?
I do that, and I get a free coffee every time I bring them in to recycle them. But they are
Really?
probably terrible for the coffee beans themselves are probably terrible for the environment, depending on where they're sourced.
I just throw it in the garbage. That's what I do with the pods.
So if we kill the coffee beans, are we doing a good thing for the environment?
No, I don't know. I don't
Oh.
think. I think we probably drink too much coffee, but I'm addicted to it, so that's my.
It's not your fault.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. I have.
But
to
are there
do it.
different types of espressos? Meaning, like the one from Starbucks seems to be a lot stronger than Dunkin'
different
Donuts.
types of espresso.
Have you had one from
Please.
Pinecrest
Yeah.
Bakery?
I figured they were all the same. I mean,
Dude, there's all sorts of styles depending on the region, and Nespresso alone, it's all the colors of the rainbow.
Yeah.
There's this bakery I go
What?
to that has a $6 oat milk cortado, which is disgusting.
Why are you going there?
$6 because they have the best espresso I've tasted in
No.
Miami.
All you got to do is go to any Ventanita. You pay 99 cents
No,
and you
it's
get
so
absolute
good.
rocket
I don't
fuel.
do it every day, by the way. I make my own coffee in the morning. Make my own cold brew.
Frugal.
Have my own little coffee system going on because I drink a lot of it. Otherwise, I'd be broke. But I go to this place like every 2 or 3 weeks. Get the $6. Oh my God, it hits. I will drink one of these cortados and I will record the best podcast of my life afterward because the way that it makes my brain
You have to play it on
work-
0.5
We
speed.
call those PEDs in the league.
exactly.
Call it Adnan.
wait, we all bailed out Tony. I mean,
Yeah. We
Yeah,
love him
Tony-
like a son, man.
Explain yourself.
One
I
last
love
time.
Tua.
There you go.
there you go, that a boy. And I agree with you, like I said earlier.
Thank you.
It is Mario season. It is.
What does that mean?
This is
Super
where
Mario Bros.
This is. Well, I do like the trailers, although the voice still bothers me. Mario Cristobal is, despite a disastrous season, one that could be fairly called the worst season in program history, is rallying the troops and is putting together quite the recruiting class. Stugotz and Hawk, they are now top 5 in the nation, despite that very recent disaster. They just secured Ruben Bain, who is a 4-star who is chased by programs like Auburn, Alabama, and Florida. The recruiting battle between the two schools, Florida and Miami, they may write a book about this in a couple of years. I cannot go into detail at the lengths of
It's a
this
book
thing.
I wouldn't read. I
Read
can tell you
that
that.
book,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Who would read that?
I understand what you're
Also,
saying.
it's
but-
good for the
Broward
Canes.
County bestseller.
It's good for the Canes, but like the problem isn't the talent; it's Mario. Like the coaching was the problem last year.
Well, if you look at talent composites, you'd be right. Miami was way more talented than a lot of the teams that they lost to. Certainly, Middle Tennessee State. However, Hawk can attest to
Duke.
this. He favors certain coaches like Mike McDaniel. He heaped upon him glowing praise that this is a type of coach that can do anything with anybody and will work around that talent. Mario Cristobal is not that kind of coach. Never was reputed to be. It was never the story going into this season. He is a recruiting base coach. He needs to stack talent. Now, last year was still disastrous because he had plenty of talent to do a lot better than 5 and 7. He made some puzzling hires for an offensive scheme that did not reflect the talent that he had. He'd be the first to admit that last year was a miss. However, it is incredibly impressive that he's able to turn that around, because in recruiting, perception is reality, and the perception in Miami was not a very good one at season's end. And to have a top 5 class here, with more coming potentially, they're in on a 5-star offensive lineman that could put them now top 3 if they land him. He is every bit the guy that he was promised to be on the recruiting front. Now that he has his guys and he gets to instill his culture, again, I can already hear people in the audience tensing up. It's just what it is with this coach. He needs to feel like he has the right culture in place and the right types of players. Last year, this past season, wasn't the right kind of player. You can espouse their talent, but I would say if they were really that talented and they're entering the portal, look at the programs they're going to. They're not going to these great Power 5 programs. Alabama's not knocking down Ohio State's not knocking down the door to get some of these guys. So while I hear you on the talent stuff and the composite rating stuff, the big programs are not going after these guys that are entering the portal. Al Blades is going to Duke. It's just the market is kind of dictating who beat Miami, but the market is dictating. But the market is dictating what this talent actually is.
It's a tough thing though, because when you're leaving a big time program and you maybe haven't played or it hasn't gone the way, it's not as typical you go to another major program, right? So I don't know if that's indicative of the talent.
Understood, but the guys that we're going
guys
after,
that want to play,
the guys that we're
It's
going
not
after,
on Caleb Williams, is what you're saying.
Right, exactly.
To USC. Right.
Those are the ones we talk about. So my question, two parts, and I'll start with the first one. So there's a top recruiting class based on the rankings, whether it's a 24/7 composite rankings or Rivals or Scout or whatever that is, and then there are the right guys. So you're saying he's bringing the right guys in. Are the right guys the top
right guys are ultra talented?
They're all okay.
Yes.
His kind of guys.
The right guys are
He's
ultra
bringing
talented.
his kind of guys.
No,
in.
but he
the
does.
very best one.
But I will say, having spoke to Coach about the type of talent that he goes after and the type of mentality. There is a certain type of mentality. The culture within that program, I can tell you, was very bad.
Yeah,
it was very bad. I'm not going to get into these players are not here. I'm not going to speak ill of them, but it wasn't a great situation for the type of program Mario Cristobal wants to run, which is rigid, and it's not a player's type of coach type of guy.
Why though? Like what? Yeah. Because
I have a couple theories.
Okay, I would like to hear.
I have a couple theories, and the prevailing theory amongst us that are helping the program out is Manny Diaz, after that loss to FIU, was basically in ass covering mode from there on out and was just trying to get a roster that would be sufficient enough to keep his job. And he glanced over some character issues and some guys that maybe weren't great locker room fits, but were talented enough to get him to a certain place. That place has been basically where Miami has resided for the last 20 years outside of one appearance in an Orange Bowl, thanks to Mark Richt, when he started getting his way, and then his health got in the way of him having something sustainable here. I think there are certain talented guys that don't operate well with rigidities that Mario was putting in place. And so, to a degree, Manny kind of sold his soul, that's very strong language, for 7 wins. And the aspirations are far beyond that. On top of that, Mario's just a much better recruiter than Manny is. And Manny wasn't terrible. He was aided some by the pandemic and people wanted to be closer to home. But this is going to take some time. It's going to take some time stacking classes. But the portal is going in encouraging ways, and this recruiting is going in encouraging ways. And it will get fixed. However, it may not be as quickly as we'd all who support the program would hope. It's going to take time to stack these classes.
Billy, put this on the poll. If you sell your soul, should you get more than 7 wins in return?
Mario should sell his soul for 7 wins.
Oh, he'd kill for 7 wins.
Yeah. I was really embarrassed that we didn't make a bowl game, but by everybody that I talked to, nobody wanted to go to a bowl game. They wanted to keep in mind, Mario came in late. He made the late offensive coordinator hire. He had to board a move and train last year with recruiting. This program was really reveling in the fact that they had a head start in this offseason recruiting program, to the point that I was a little embarrassed by, we don't want to make a bowl game. We just need to keep pushing things forward. I know, but I was actually saying this before that game against Pitt.
This is like
in which I got throttled.
I'm breaking up with you. You didn't break up with me situation.
No. I'm telling you.
We didn't want a bowl game.
Yeah, we're too
we
good.
tossed that last game. We didn't want to be eligible.
Right.
I didn't want to
We
go
would've
on a
said
date
no.
with Lewis Hamilton.
Exactly.
It's not even.
If you would super
At
follow,
Hamilton.
if you would super follow at Michael Ryan Ruiz, you would know that this was said before the Pitt game. They wanted to get a head start on their offseason program, and to their credit, when you look at the results, and recruiting is such a massive part of being successful in college football, they're knocking it out the park right now.
It just seems like if the transition from Manny to Mario wasn't handled in a way where players bought in and like wanted to compete and play well, which I think would be in every player's best interest, that's still on Mario. Like
Yes.
he should have done a better job making sure that the players that because this happens to college football teams all the time. I'm sure, Hawk, you can attest to this. I don't know if it ever happened while you were a college player, but coaching changes happen. You sometimes as a player, maybe you don't expect them, but you might anticipate that it happens at some point. The person who recruits you isn't going to be there anymore. And it's still in your best interest to play well and to do the best thing for yourself and play on the team. So if that's not the attitude that the players had, that still reflects on Mario and his mentality, if anything else.
If I may, though, we were saying, remember the conversations that we were having around this time last year, which is why are they stringing Manny along? Why? We all know more. This is unfair to Manny. People were crying in the national media about Manny. Well, when Manny is still the coach, his players are still his players, and he is still keeping them here. Miami's hesitance to actually fire Manny Diaz kept a lot of these players aboard, and you didn't have a strong reset. And the other side of the token was, well, this is a talented enough team. Tyler Van Dyke setting all these records. You can just plug and play Mario Cristobal. But the way that Miami approached it, it was so puzzling at the time, and now people want to forget about it when they're taking their shots at Mario Cristobal. There wasn't this mass exodus that we're having this season of talent entering the portal where Mario, to his credit, is sitting down having honest conversations with recruits and people that are coming in on their own dime in the transfer portal trying to be a part of this program, where he's telling them flatly, you're not a fit here, but I will help you find a fit elsewhere. Those conversations didn't happen. He came in too late in the game. He installed his offense. That one's on
But
him.
He came
installed
in like
his
a
offense.
week after Lincoln Riley
Yeah, the
went to
transfer portal
USC.
Yeah,
still
but
open.
USC fired their coach months before that. The kids on that roster, and it shows with the exodus of talent from USC, they were gone. Manny's guys stuck around because Manny still would have been their head coach if Mario wasn't. So Miami's approach, which was frustrating to me and to the audience because I was hammering it home because this was one of the residuals that happened from that, is you had Manny and Mario Cristobal are polar opposite coaches when it comes to running a locker room. It is oil and water. The type from the types of players that they recruit to their approach to recruiting to their approach in that locker room to what the kids can get away with. And when you extend the timeline long enough to the point you're beyond the point of no return, and Mario has to make it work with these guys, he doesn't even have the time to get to realize whether or not these kids are good culture fits. He certainly found that out throughout the course of this season.
Well, what it says to me, though, is that, A, Mario's not able to adjust his coaching style to match the players that are on his team and do the
Make
best
them
thing.
a good fit.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but you're not-
right.
but
And
Yes,
also
that's
he's
your
You're not
job,
saying, but
Mike.
you're not saying anything revelatory, Jess. This is something that I would concede when he got here.
Why
this
are you
is
so
who
mad?
he is. But because
I'm
I would
very
be,
passionate.
I would
about
be too.
this.
I'm
Very
super
defensive.
I just
passionate.
I feel
but
bad for these players. That's all.
The
Like
guy
it's
had a lousy
not trying
year.
To make a
I mean, it
revelation. It
happens.
just seems like a lot of like football players are getting blamed for this like very rigid coaching style not matching what they came into college expecting, and that's kind of shitty. And also, it sounds like the university botched the hire from the
They
start,
did.
which we talked about last year. And I don't like that it's reflecting on players in the portal or whatever when it's like. All of these factors are outside of their control when they chose to go to Miami, and it's unfortunate that now their college experience and like their short time as student athletes is now marred by a very unfair situation that is completely out of their control.
And also-
there were plenty of things in those players' control. And I'm not going to come here to this microphone and tell you what some of these players are up to to do that. Like they're just
please
some,
do.
They're
But
just,
I mean-
I'm not going to do that. They're just some bad character guys that are
I
gone.
mean, that's normal of every college program or any place where you get, 118-year-olds that come from certain backgrounds and diverse areas, whether it's from, this state, that state. You get good guys, you get bad guys. That's any group of 100 individuals, right? I would say the conversation that you're having, though, it feels a lot like if an NFL coach went to a new team, right? He has to get his players. He has to get free agency. He has all these things. And I understand that college football has changed dramatically with the transfer portal. But that being said, I do feel like it's a little bit of an out for him to say, oh, I don't have my guys, and I came into this program late, and I had to stick with these players that I couldn't push out into the transfer portal, because college football is a lot easier to get buy-in. Mm-hmm. It's not like, they don't have a choice. They don't have a choice in the fact that, like, these are 18 to 21-year-old impressionable young people, and college football coaches have control over everything. They are the only person getting paid. They are the chief authority in the room.
And all they have to do is beat Middle Tennessee and Duke.
That's
and you make
it.
the bowl
and
game.
then it's completely different. And that's
they
like,
don't want to
those aren't the aspirations. But
no, I get it.
I
guess,
think where I'm getting so defensive is you guys are thinking that you're making good points, and these were points that I conceded upon his hiring. That he's not that coach. I prefer the Mike McDaniel that just strolls in, players coach, hey, let me figure out what I got here and let me work around you.
Yeah.
It's just not what Mario Cristobal is, for better or worse, and they invested $80 million in making it work.
Because even in the Mike McDaniel, you go get Tyreek Hill, you go get all these incredible, his roster's incredible. I love Mike McDaniel, but he's also smart that I know I need the players. And I agree you made all the points about coach, but at the same time, he's getting all these 5 stars and 4 stars. I'm saying, from what you've seen, it might not be that big of a difference going forward, because next year it's going to be, well, hey, we know we have the talent. We know we have the guys. You can't just keep moving the goalpost. It feels like a goalpost move.
Well, you can't move it any further.
That's the point. Right.
Exactly. There's only up from here, you would have to imagine, because they just had their worst season. I was always of the mind that for us to get where we wanted to go, which is not the Wasabi Fenway Bowl, which is where would they
be
would
so
be.
lucky to be in the Wasabi.
I would love to be.
Bowl.
Trust me, I wanted to take that. I wanted to take that trip.
They're too good for
I wanted to take that trip, but where this program wants to go is beyond that, and it's going to take some time to stack the talent. I think it's going to be successful because the talent discrepancy, composite rankings out the window, because the market is telling you what this talent is. I think eventually the talent will get there. Mario Cristobal has plenty of strikes against him when it comes to tactics, when it comes to the lack of malleability to conform to the players that he has, to even be able to connect. The coaches that he hired did not connect to these players. That is in large part on the coaches, like you've said, but it's also they got aboard this moving train and they couldn't figure out whether or not they would personality clash until they started facing some adversity. I think that Mario is very organized and knows the type of player that he wants to build this program around. And it's not just a 4-star with talent and blazing speed. It's a 4-star with talent, blazing speed, 5-star talent, blazing speed, that has the right type of mentality that fits the identity of his team. For better or worse, that's not for me to say. I prefer more relaxed style, but this is just what it is.
You're saying everything needs to be perfect for Mario, so he's a system coach essentially.
Yes, and his system,
the Jalen Hurts of coaches. Right. I mean,
he's a system coach.
What happened there? I didn't say TUA.
He is a system coach, but the system is predicated on getting elite talent, and I think where you can be encouraged is through his first full recruiting cycle. Is he's showing you he knows how to get that first domino to fall.
All right, David Pollack with us. I feel like we're going to brawl here in a second, Pollack, okay? Because
I'm good with that.
All right, good. Well, do you feel like the College Football Committee got it right? Because I don't, and I think, and I know you've railed against this on College Gameday, but I feel like Alabama should be in the college football playoff, and I'm guessing you probably don't.
Absolutely not. Okay, make the case. Tell me why Alabama should be in the playoff.
I think there's only a handful of good teams in college football, like great teams, okay? And the two teams that Alabama played that I would consider great this season were on the road, Tennessee. Bryce Young coming off an injury. They lost that game. Tennessee was playing as well as anyone in the country at that point. It was on the road. Tennessee beat them by 3 points. Then they went to LSU, which is a tricky place to play, as you know, and Alabama lost by a point. Ohio State had one of those games. It was at home against Michigan, and Michigan blew them out by 20-plus points. So, therefore, I think Alabama is just a better team than Ohio State, and I think Alabama would be the favorite over 3 of the 4 college football playoff teams.
Two things. Alabama was the favorite over Tennessee. Alabama was the favorite over LSU. And what happened? They lost both those games.
They did.
So you're making a case for me for the college football playoff that Alabama barely lost that game and barely lost another game. But who did they beat? Where's Alabama's win that we're pointing to this year that we go, man, but they beat so-and-so and they beat so-and-so. They didn't. This is not a traditional Alabama team that we've seen in the past, man. Even if we did the TCU to Alabama comparison, you know what we got TCU to Alabama? We got a direct head-to-head, right? Alabama played at Texas. TCU played at Texas. TCU up 17-0, gave up a score late, dominated the football game. Alabama barely beat them with their backup quarterback. So I understand what you're saying. I still see the NFL talent on Alabama's roster. I know they're really good. Bryce Young had a heck of a season, but there is always going to be an element of what you did and how good we think you are. But once it doesn't get apples to apples, and once you get, two losses and your resume is completely different than the person you're being compared to, then I don't think you go with, I think this team's better. I think you got to go with what they did. And this year on the field, Alabama didn't have a lot to point to say, they beat so-and-so and so-and-so, so they should be in the college football playoff.
Smitty, what does that sound? You agreed with me 2 weeks ago. I mean, what are you doing to me?
What are you doing?
I made this exact argument to you last week, and I said, what was Alabama's best win? And you said Mississippi, and I laughed at you.
What's Ohio
face.
State's best win, David? Like, what's their best win? Is it much different than Alabama's best win?
They beat Penn State at Penn State by 20, who's a top 10 team.
Right.
They beat Notre Dame, who's a top 20 team, convincingly by, they beat them by 14. But there's still that's two better wins than anything Alabama has.
I mean, Alabama beat Mississippi State. I feel like all those teams are the same. That's my point. I feel like Penn State and Mississippi, there's not a big difference there,
And that I will get with. I don't think there's a huge difference. But here's again. Bama's game against Mississippi went down to the last play again. So we talk about the close losses. They barely beat Mississippi. They barely beat Texas. They barely beat Texas A&M, who sucked. So, I mean, there's a lot of teams that they barely skated by, too, that we could point to. And traditionally in the past, we were like, Bama hammers them. Bama beats the crap out of them. They weren't a great team this year, and because of that, that's why you saw them struggle.
The committee got a little lucky this year because USC lost in the Pac-12 championship, and we would have almost ended up with a one-loss USC team to Utah and then a one-loss TCU team who lost in the Big 12 championship to Kansas State. What do you think would have happened if that scenario played out?
I think both of them would have been in. I think TCU was in regardless of the loss, the championship game, just because of where they stood. And you look at the final rankings, obviously, with the loss, they're still ahead of Ohio State. So they would still be in. And USC, if they had won, they'd have been the 4 seed, and they would have gone and got curb stomped by Georgia. It would have been it'd been worse, probably a lot worse than the Pac-12 championship game. But so I think those. This is the first time ever I've done this where the top 3 teams who I thought were in with a loss regardless. I mean. It's just because of the way everything else fell, and Alabama getting 2 losses and Tennessee getting 2 losses. Tennessee's an interesting one if Hendon Hooker, doesn't get hurt where they thought they were ranked, because we know they would have been ranked ahead of Alabama, and they had they had a heck of a season and a heck of a turnaround for them.
David, I mean, we asked about the strongest wins for all these schools. For TCU, what was their hallmark win from your perspective? Because I kind of agree with Stugotz around Alabama. I feel like, yes, those are 2 losses. I'm just being honest. Because, I mean, you even talked about Ohio State. None of these wins were oh, man, this is solidified. It's not the Michigan situation. It's not Georgia. So for TCU, what win for them was the biggest on their resume?
Well, Kansas State, remember, they lost to Kansas State in overtime, but they also beat them in the regular season. So that's a top 10 win that they had. They're actually their loss was actually their best win as well, because they played them twice. Listen, I don't think TCU's schedule you're going to look, and the way they came back, I think that scared a lot of people too, because you remember the Baylor kick at the end of the game. They came back in so many games consistently, but they beat Texas, who Alabama played.
Yeah.
Alabama played Texas at Texas. Can we remember this, please? And TCU destroyed them. It was 17-0. They got a fumble in the fourth quarter with 3 minutes left, picked it up, ran it into the house. Alabama played that team. Alabama looked like crud against that team. So there is comparison, and they do head-to-head. They do common opponents. That's part of the strategy of the committee.
You said that Georgia would have curb-stomped Southern Cal in the playoff. Do you think Georgia will curb-stomp the rest of their opponents this season and win the national championship, or is that a stupid question because you're obviously biased?
No, it's a great question. I'm not biased, but I do think Georgia's the best team in it. I think it'd be hard to argue that, but I think they got the worst draw because Ohio State, you look at Ohio State's roster, they're littered with NFL talent. I mean, they are littered. Now, they haven't put it together, and they haven't shown, tremendous toughness throughout the season, and they've been pretty dominant against, the Big Ten teams they played aside from Michigan, but they're still a talented team. And I think having to play TCU or Michigan, they'll be the clear favorites in both of those games. Michigan would be, I think, the biggest test for them because physically I think they can answer the test. They've got a lot of revenge factor from a year ago, too, when Georgia beat them in the Orange Bowl and punched their ticket to the national championship. So, yeah, Georgia deserves to be the favorite, but I think Georgia-Michigan would be a heck of a game and a rematch and a revenge game.
You can catch David on College Gameday live from the semifinal at the Peach Bowl on Saturday, December 31st, and then at the National Championship Monday, January 9th in L.A. Did Colorado get it right with Deion Sanders, David?
I think Colorado absolutely got it right. I think it's the best thing they could have done. Listen, Colorado needs to hit a home run. They need to swing for the fences. They need to get something exciting. Now, is it the best for Deion? Maybe not. I mean, I think Colorado is a tough place to play, a tough place to win. You haven't seen a lot of winning going on there in the last 20 years. But, getting a guy like Primetime with his credibility. The one thing about Prime that people don't understand, too, like you go to a Jackson practice, and we had we were fortunate enough to go there this past year to go to their facility and do game day. Like Deion, they're all wearing the same thing. He teaches toughness. He's old school. He's more physical. He's more in your face. If he gets in the portal and can get some guys, I think he can bring Colorado back to relevancy. He's not going to bring them to a national championship contender. He's not going to, dominate the Pac-12 and go undefeated. But I think they can be a team again that consistently wins, which for Colorado would be huge. And even if he does take off and go somewhere else after he's successful at Colorado, at least you had a little bit of excitement and a run and a reason to look positive at Colorado football because it's been a hot minute.
David, I'm a big fan of College Gameday. I watch the show every Saturday. I'm a big fan of yours in particular because I always feel like you have the takes on the show that I most agree with. In 2020, you were one of the few people on the show to defend my alma mater, Notre Dame, and their playoff resume worthiness. But I wonder how do you keep up with all of the games when you're traveling on Saturdays, when you're, prepping for the studio show, all of these things that you're doing during the week? How are you able to keep up with everything, make sure that you know what you're talking about on Saturday morning?
It's like you just did with Stugotz, how you just had blinders on and completely ignored him. That was awesome, by the way. It's the same thing. I mean, you've got to just be dialed in. Like the weekends in college football season, I feel like a horrible dad and a horrible parent sometimes, but I'm like, I got to be dialed in. I got to watch games. I got to make sure I know what's going on. And then, during the season or during the weekdays, you got to watch a lot of tape. We're very fortunate. We have access to an app where we have every single game in college football, and we get to, watch it from the coach's copy and study and agree. So, or, watch it and study and do our tapes. But thank you very much for the compliment. Nice focus there, by the way, to keep plugging through and not let him derail you on that. That was beautiful.
That's being awfully critical of yourself, bad dad, bad husband. I mean, come on, you're working and chalking up to work. I mean,
man, let me tell you something, bro. I hear you. I hear you with that. Yeah. But when you're sitting there, and especially when you have young kids, and you're like, and your wife's doing everything, that ain't good, bro.
No, I know it. No, I've been there.
Oh yeah,
and you didn't have an excuse, Stugotz.
No, I was just here. Go ahead, Andrew.
David, you said that Colorado made the right choice with Deion. You said you don't know if Deion made the right choice. Give me a little bit more explanation around that.
Well, I just think Colorado needs prime, needs something fun, needs something exciting, needs a reason. Listen, if you don't think Game Day is going to be playing prime quotes, you're out your mind.
Right.
Like, it's going to bring a lot of sizzle. It's going to be sexy at Colorado for the first time in football in a long, long time. So I think that he'll bring eyeballs. do you really think that Colorado's a job where you can go win and win big? I think it's a tough job. He's going to work the transfer portal and he's going to bring in guys, but it's not an easy place to win. Like Deion at Auburn, if that was a chance, good Lord, Deion can go kill it. He can go win and win big. So I don't know how big you're going to be able to win at Colorado.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if Deion made the right decision there. Time will tell.
David, how much are you going to miss Felica?
Oh man, it's crazy. Ever since I've been on the show, there's always been the Bear. And before he was the Bear, Felica was unreal, and he brought me in and helped me look at things different ways. And he's got that massive, huge Rolodex of sports information. I've never seen anything like it. Like you literally could walk up to Bear and go, Bear, 2007 national championship, who won? And he would know the answer like that. He would tell you the players. Like he's an amazing resource for us, and he's been an amazing friend to me. Helped me along the way, everything I need. So we'll definitely miss the big fella. Just his presence every week. He's fun. He's cantankerous, which makes him fun. You get to pick on him, which makes it fun. Like all of it we'll miss. It's like losing a teammate from the locker room.
He's great. If you need a replacement on that show, I'm putting it out there. Okay, I'm available. Okay, I'm because I feel like you probably do, and I'm there for you. That's all I'm trying to tell you.
So am I.
Hey, out of all the people that we could find to replace Bear, you would be one of them.
Thank you. Oh wow, look at that. It feels like a backhanded compliment, but I'll take it. I mean,
I don't think that was a compliment at all. I think you just
felt
said
like
you
one
are a person.
David, we appreciate it. Again, you can catch David on College Game Day Live from the semifinal at the Peach Bowl on Saturday, December 31st, and then at the National Championship game Monday, January 9th. It's in L.A. David, we know you're busy. We appreciate the time, my friend. And don't beat yourself up. You're a great dad and a great husband.
No problem. Thank y'all guys very much. Have a good one.
All right, man. All right, Mike, just so you're clear on what's happening here. Lists are being put together. Top 5 quarterbacks who got too much credit. Top 5 quarterbacks who did not receive enough credit. I love that you're in on that, Hawk.
Did you all see the clip that went semi-viral on sports Twitter of the sports writer saying misogynistic comments about female sports fans?
I did see it, yeah.
I'll read the quote.
Okay.
He said, "The worst fans really are the women. They don't get critical journalism. They also cheer for too many teams. How can they be a Bears fan and also a Steelers fan? Also, how do they like Notre Dame and Clemson? It doesn't make any sense. Those teams play against each other sometimes.
There's no way he said all that.
There's no room for women in sports." That's what he said on this podcast. And he got fired over it. Because it was very misogynistic. And it's something that, it's true, only women do.
Why do, first off, what was the man's name who got fired? Do we know?
His name's Jerry Sullivan. It looks like he worked for WIVB TV, Channel 4, the Niagara Gazette, and Lockport Union Sun and Journal.
Okay. And he was on do you have the host's name of the show? Because it's...
No, but the show's name was like Trainwreck Tonight or something, which does feel pretty accurate because they kind of like nodded along as he said some extremely misogynistic things.
Was Misogyny Daily taken?
Come on the show to get fired from your job was the name of the show.
How to get out of your contract, sports talk.
Exactly.
Who's sitting on that GoDaddy for Misogyny Daily?
But has he ever met any male sports fans? Because
oh my gosh.
This interview is also taking place in a room with all Buffalo Bills merchandise all over. Things that you would wear if you were, in fact, a cheerleader. All had like the team names on them and stuff. I also wonder, has he ever met any sports journalists? Because they sometimes are the biggest sports cheerleaders of them all, the male journalists.
I would say 90% of sports fans in totality are cheerleaders. And that's just...
100%.
I would say 90%
that's kind of the point.
90% of like columnists and reporters too.
Why are we making sports fandom so complex though? Like women don't understand it. Okay? Like sit next to my daughter. No, listen to my daughter who's 18 fire Rob Saleh during a Jet game. I mean,
well, no, it's because we have tiny brains. Our brains were just
science.
Vacuum dishes,
right.
raise children.
Of course.
Do their dishes and their laundry.
Oh my
It's the
gosh.
tiny brain thing. But yeah, I don't know. I was struck by how brazen this man's comments were, and he did get fired, so consequences were had. I do think though that it's underrated in sports journalism how much all people that cover sports get into sports because they do kind of want to be cheerleaders. Like you want to,
That's
like the
point.
reason I got into sports is because like I want to be around sports because I like sports. So in a way, yeah, I'm a cheerleader for sports. Doesn't really necessarily always conflict with being critical about what you cover. I mean, I'm not on a beat. I'm not really a journalist too much these days, but that's why people get into, like, that's probably why he got into being a sports columnist, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I'm leery of other people who join sports fandom for the science. That's that's where I draw the line.
So complex.
Yeah,
I
wow.
support all 32 NFL teams.
Yeah,
But we all start as we're fans
We're
of a
all
team.
fans. We all want to
We're fans
feel
of
good.
sports. We're fans of a team, and
I think over time, maybe some of that breaks you. But even now, while I don't have an NFL team and my relationship with sports after the Deshaun Watson thing is a little fractured, I just poured everything else into Hurricanes support.
I was going to say you were all in.
I'm
on the
all in
Hurricane
on
support.
Hurricanes, but I've noticed I don't care about the Heat the same way. Or Panthers, like I'm all in on that, and my identity being tied up in Cleveland Browns fandom or any other kind of fandom has kind of been diluted. I'm so passionate about national team soccer, but I think that's a little bit of a different case because you tie into the patriotism.
Well, I guess I should say that like 90% of people get into sports because they're fans. There are a growing number of people that do get into sports because of math. And those are the nerds that we all hate, right?
Mhm.
So
Wait, really?
there's you don't hate the nerds?
I don't hate the nerds.
you don't
It's space for everybody.
really.
Yeah.
Not math guys though. I mean,
I mean,
Equality.
not real fans of sports like us.
right? Like Pablo.
We bully the nerds. Yeah, like exactly.
Gambling also changes it to a degree because I find myself in a situation where I'm just looking at a game and it doesn't matter if it's my team or not. And you can call it an emotional hedge, but
Yeah.
I'm not actively rooting against teams that I support, but there's a fist pump there.
Yeah.
You know?
You feel a little.
And that has to chip away some of your loyalty.
But in a way, Sullivan is insinuating that that women are incapable of sitting there and saying, "Hey, bench Zach Wilson and put Mike White in. We're trying to win a football game." That's essentially what they're saying, right? I mean,
or that even
which
if
is
you,
absurd.
even if you do that you're on some higher ground than the person
Right.
who's saying, I like Zach Wilson and the Jets and I want him to win. That's
Right.
not you're not any better, I guess is my point.
What is he better at? What is he
That's what I'm
claiming that he's
curious
better
of.
at? Being a gas bag? I mean, seriously. Like, what is he claiming he's better at? Like, it's insulting. It really is.
Thinking critically, I don't know, Stugotz. I'm not gonna watch the whole clip. This is just one of those things that came across my Twitter feed that I was
All right.
I was struck that I saw Sarah Spain tweet this too. Like, we're still doing this in 2022.
Yeah.
We're still doing like these little ladies and their tiny brains. They just don't understand how to think critically about journalism. I just sounded like Bane, and I don't know why. I was doing an impression of a misogynist, and it sounded like Bane.
It's an odd take. It's an odd take to thunder forward with. I think the host tried to cut him off, okay? Like, the host tried to cut him off and save him, and Sullivan just thundered forward with his take.
Powered
Like,
through.
Yeah, he was relentless.
Get back in the kitchen.
I like misogynist Bane as a character.
Hawk, you were kind of into what Micah Parsons had to say. It's what I've been saying for nearly a week here about Tony's already shaking his head about Jalen Hurts. But Micah Parsons, who I think many people would say, well, I'll ask you, is the premier defender in the NFL right now, right? On the defensive side of the football, he's probably one of three
he's-
guys
yep.
that people look to, right?
I would say so, yes.
And he was, I don't know if we have the sound mic. It was from Von Miller's podcast. Everyone's got a podcast, man. Von Miller. Sitting there
Game
with
has
a-
changed.
Yeah.
He's got time to do one now.
Yes, he does. That's all he has is time, Roy. It's a good point. But Micah Parsons, now, Cowboys and Eagles very well might be the two best teams in the NFL, playing in the same division. And they play each other coming up. And so maybe Parsons is trying to get some attention headed into that game. But he essentially is saying, yeah, Jalen Hurts is good, but really it's the team that makes it go. It's not Jalen Hurts making the team. It's the team making Jalen Hurts, essentially.
I completely disagree. I mean, you shouldn't be punished for having a good team. The things that Jalen Hurts is doing on a week-to-week basis. And this is another goalpost move. Now, I don't know what Micah Parsons' take on Jalen Hurts was coming into the season or coming out of the draft, but it's crazy to watch somebody go from you should be practicing another position to being an MVP frontrunner at the position. We've seen it done before, but that's a terrible take. I completely disagree.
With Micah.
Yes, I completely disagree with Micah.
I agree with him. And I did set it up on the front end by saying that you agree with me because I just figured you would because you agree with me on everything.
Hold on. I also have to bring back yesterday when you said do it on a good team or on a bad team. He wants Jalen Hurts to be sent to the Texans and then take the Texans 12-1. That's what he wants.
Jared Goff. I mean, seriously.
How many
point.
MVPs teams suck? Like, how many people are we like, yo, that team sucked, but you played really well. That was a really dope 9-8 season. Here's your MVP trophy.
In football, it doesn't happen.
You know what I'm saying? That's my point.
But, Hawk, same question I asked earlier about Tua. If you put Jalen Hurts on the Chargers, are the Chargers 7-6?
Yes.
They are.
Probably better.
Really?
Yeah, they're better than that.
Now,
I would think so.
Right. Now, I was going to say put Herbert on the Eagles, but it's hard to be better than 11-1 or 12-1, whatever they are. Right?
No. That doesn't it doesn't register. I think this is a little bit of Micah trying to campaign to get defensive players into the MVP race, himself specifically, because I've heard some people say he should be in the MVP running and a front runner.
He's acting emotional like a woman.
Do you think he's the MVP, Jalen Hurts?
At this stage, yes.
Really?
Yep. I think he's the MVP. Who do you have as the MVP?
Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in football. I've said that a number of times on this show. To me, Joe Burrow is one of those guys we talked about earlier where if he goes to your team, it might take a minute, but your team's going to be good, and it's going to be because of Joe Burrow.
He had some rough early season games, though.
I know.
The totality of the bodies of work in this season, Jalen Hurts is objectively better.
He is on a better team, though.
Wait,
the Bengals were in the Super Bowl last year.
Come on, man.
The Bengals were in the Super Bowl, and they completely
because
revamped.
Of Joe Burrow. They were in the Super
better.
Bowl, but they were in the Super Bowl because of
Don't
Joe
try
Burrow.
This, man. Don't dig yourself a deeper
Were you
hole.
a Carson Wentz guy?
For a season, I
okay,
was.
then we're done. We're done with this comment.
I mean, it was 10
Were
great
you a
games.
Carson Wentz should be MVP guy?
It was 10 great games, Hawk. That's all I'm telling you. Like, he had 10 great games where he probably was.
I think that's the biggest. And yes, this is a good team, but you got to see exactly what Jalen Hurts could do with this team that Carson Wentz had in almost real time, and that tells you this is not just a guy who's a product of the people around him. He came into a situation where he wasn't supposed to be the guy. Somebody else was there, and they were making all the money, and it was, hey, we're going to scare this guy. We're going to make sure he has a fire behind him, and he completely upstaged that quarterback by the way that he played, and it was very clear your team is better when Jalen Hurts is on the field. And so I think that what you're seeing now, even though their team is good, it's a byproduct of things that start at the quarterback position. They know he can do it all. He can make the throws. He can run. He makes the right reads. He makes the right decisions. This has been an incredible year for him. And so I don't think it's just a product of the fact that he has talent around him.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think Jalen Hurts would be this, to his credit. Like, he's good. Yep. He's a really good NFL quarterback. I'm just not certain he's one of those Joe Burrows. I'm not certain he's a Lamar Jackson. I'm not there yet.
I love Joe Burrow, so it's hard to counter your argument because I'm such a Joe Burrow stan.
Right.
But he had an early rough part of the season.
He did, but like when that guy, this is what I love about Burrow. When he's playing Mahomes, when he's playing one of those guys, he thinks he's
the
better
guy.
than
he's the guy.
Right.
In any game he shows up in,
we
I'm
might
the
not
guy.
think it, but we think he thinks
that's a beautiful thing,
and that's all that matters to me.
I think the one thing that was the knock on Jalen Hurts last season was that he was reliant too much on his legs. And from the offseason to now, obviously the addition of A.J. Brown is massive. And Devonta Smith's, the next step that he took in his game. But like he's developed into such a good pocket passer. And I don't know if that's a byproduct of the offensive line, of the weapons, or of just getting better. He's 24 years old. Like he's a young guy. And that step that he's taken throwing the ball has been like leaps and bounds better than last season.
Everything that you're highlighting, I think, is cyclical, though. He's a better pocket passer because he has
Offensive
better
line is
options
better.
on the outside, and the offensive line is
But he wasn't
better.
throwing like this last year, Mike.
No, but he
And their offensive line was
the receivers were bad last year.
But
That was
Tony,
horrible.
I mean,
That was
Tony,
one of the best. That was one of the worst wide receiver cores in the entire.
Their
in
number
the entire
one was like
NFL.
Quez Watkins.
Yeah,
It
but
was
we
really
do this
bad.
all the time. We discount the offensive line. Like, look at Tua when he has time. And when he doesn't have time, he looks like he did
So-
the last 2 weeks.
Give me your top three MVP candidates
Wow.
for this season right now.
I've been waiting for this question from a co-host my entire life who actually wants it. It's
I want to
amazing.
hear it.
I would say Joe Burrow.
Okay.
I would say Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
And I would say Tua certainly deserves to be in that discussion.
Okay. You said Joe Burrow. You said Tua.
Yeah.
You said that, Jalen Hurts is a product of his team, his receivers. Joe Burrow's receivers are Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd.
Yeah.
Maybe the best, the most total receiving core in the league. The
Well-
Dolphins have Tyreek Hill,
Yep.
Waddle. So with good quarterback play needs good receivers. So
No,
you
but-
shouldn't ding them
Right.
because they have talent there.
That's fair, but I would also say that Burrow probably has the worst offensive line, maybe in the NFL, and did last year and got to the Super Bowl with that offensive line. Chase has been hurt. Higgins and Boyd
They're a
went out
better
last
O-line
week
than
and they
last year.
still won. I mean,
Joe Burrow's great. Again, I'm not going to argue against that, but also we're probably wasting our time because Mahomes is probably the MVP. He probably always is. He's
Right.
been the best quarterback in all, for as long as he's in the league, he's going to be the best.
right.
And it's kind of the Shaq, Michael Jordan. It's going to be the Patrick Mahomes
Yeah.
award trophy presented by Kia and Nissan.
I got a crazy idea. It's just how about celebrate everybody? Because you're on this weird campaign
Yeah,
against
Yeah.
all 32 teams.
All 32 teams, everybody gets an MVP.
are fans now, and we're so soft.
What is
I'm just saying, you don't have to prop up Joe Burrow by
Why?
taking shots at Jalen Hurts because, well, number one, every time you try to take out Jalen Hurts, your logic gets undone inside of 5 seconds.
I'm
So
not
it's probably not a
certain.
good. It's not a good
Micah
position for
Parsons
you.
agrees with me. I mean, RG3 is out here. He's saying that
Oh, my
Jason
gosh.
Kelsey is the MVP. Jason Kelsey.
I love RG3. We played together. That's also someone I don't know if I would agree with on things that he says recently. So just tread lightly there.
Do you have a list of people that you should not agree
Should not
with?
agree with.
Like
Top 5 people.
Micah Parsons is one, right?
The list is growing. There are people that you get some opinions. You're like, oh yeah, I agree. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Let me jump back into my own head and make sure I'm thinking about this the right way.
I think people are trying to say this about Jalen Hurts, that we're giving him too much credit, that the rest of the team is really, really good. But the quarterback's the one that, they get the credit and they also get blamed. Like, listen, if they lose at home NFC Championship game,
Right.
and, they're favored by 6-7 points, the person who's going to get criticized is going to be Jalen Hurts in all likelihood.
Yeah, it's going
Unless
to
it's a
be blamed.
shootout and, quarterback just makes a big play at the end of the game. It's going to be Hurts. He's going to get the blame, but he's also going to be celebrated if they win a Super Bowl. And I think people are saying, hey, if they win a Super Bowl, they won the Super Bowl. Jalen
they
Hurts
lose,
didn't win a
it's his
Super Bowl.
fault.
Right. But if the Bengals win the Super Bowl, then Joe Burrow did it all by himself.
Which is ridiculous.
I'm
but-
not saying it's terribly fair.
But
It's
who
just,
dey?
it's just the way it is.
Aaron Rodgers is on the short list of people who have won NFL MVPs, but you also don't want to agree with everything they say.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's probably he's probably on that list.
Yeah. I have a list, by the way. We'll get to Mike Schur in a second, of top 5. We don't have to do it now, but top 5 quarterbacks in NFL history who got too much credit.
Oh, I like that.
How about that? And top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL who didn't get enough credit. How about that?
How about that?
Before we get
I like it.
Before we get to it, let's go to Mike Schur with the stat of the day.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day.
The stat of the day is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Morning, everybody.
Morning, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Good morning.
I don't know if you've talked about this yet. I hope you have not. But the NBA renamed all of its awards. Have you talked about this yet?
Oh, yeah. We talked about
Yeah.
all the coincidences. Oh, well, I mean, it was premeditated. All the 23, the 5 MVPs, the 6-sided trophy to represent all his rings.
Well, that's not what I want to talk about. Here's what I want to talk about. So the new MVP trophy is the Michael Jordan trophy. The Defensive Player of the Year gets the Hakeem Olajuwon trophy, right? So there's a new award called the Mr. Clutch Award, and it's named after Jerry West. The Mr. Clutch Award will get the Jerry West trophy. And here's the thing. Jerry West's LA Lakers made the finals 9 times. He lost 8 of them.
Clutch.
Jerry West lost to the Celtics in 62, 63, 65, 66, 68, and 69.
Right.
He lost to Stugotz' Knicks in 1970 and 73. Your stat of the day is that the NBA Mr. Clutch Award is named after the guy with the worst finals record in the history of the NBA.
I'm on to you, Schur. You wanted to bring that up only so you can point out how many times he lost to the Celtics, okay?
Well, listen. I'm fair. I am impartial and I'm fair. Jerry West did win the Finals MVP on a losing team in '69. He averaged 38 points a game. He also had a game, I think that year, where he has scored 53 and had 10 assists. So, he's a great player. He's the logo.
Right.
But Mr. Clutch, I think that's a bridge too far. Now, you guys know me, and lady, you know me. I'm something of a basketball historian. I have combed through the numbers. I took a stab at what I think the correct names for these trophies should be. See if you all agree with me, okay?
Okay.
The Defensive Player of the Year, I would say, should be the Bill Russell Trophy. Rookie of the Year, I think, should be the Peyton Pritchard Trophy. Sixth Man of the Year, Stugotz, I think you'll agree with me here, should be the Al Horford Trophy.
Yep.
Wait a sec.
No doubt.
Wait a
Although he
second.
starts, I mean,
Something's up.
Most Improved Player, I would think should be the Al Horford Trophy.
Wait, what?
agreed. Yeah.
There's a clear agenda
Clutch.
here.
Mr. Clutch Player of the Year, in my opinion, the Al Horford Trophy.
Yep.
Comeback Player of the Year, I think without question, should be the Al Horford Trophy. And then, I get it. LeBron, Michael Jordan, we have that debate all the time. Who's the greatest of all time? In my opinion, the MVP should, without question, be the Al Horford Trophy.
Yes. Right. I agree on all fronts.
I'm glad. I thought you would. I'm glad you're here today because I figured you'd agree with me.
The clutch trophy should be Big Shot Bob. That's the only, right? I mean,
I believe so.
if you're named
Well, I
Big
mean-
Shot Bob, that's your clutch.
Do you want to be, if you're Mr. Clutch, were you 1-8 in the NBA Finals, or were you Big Shot Bob? Were you drilling threes at the most valuable times for your team?
It's a very fair point.
Is it sponsored by Clutch Sports, this Mr. Clutch Award?
Yeah, they're all spelled KLUTCH. I have some Nolan Ryan stats for you too, Stugotz.
Oh,
By request.
my God.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much.
All right, you want some quick Nolan Ryan stats?
I would love them.
Courtesy of MLB.com and 80sbaseball.com. Here are my favorites. Nolan Ryan had 5,714 strikeouts and 2,795 walks, which means fully 38% of the plate appearances against him ended without the ball actually being put into the field of play. Basically 2 out of every 5 at-bats. He led the league in strikeouts per inning in 1972 when he was 25 years old, and in 1991 when he was 44 years old. He struck out people during Lyndon Johnson's presidency, Nixon's first presidency, Nixon's second presidency, Gerald Ford's presidency, Carter's presidency, then Reagan's first, and Reagan's second, then George H.W. Bush's presidency, and also Bill Clinton's presidency. He struck out 26% of the batters he faced in the decade of the 70s. 1 out of every 4 guys for an entire decade he struck out. He pitched so long he faced both Roger Maris and Kenny Lofton. He struck out at least 47 different Hall of Famers, not including pitchers. And finally, here are some fathers and sons that he struck out.
Okay.
Bobby Bonds and Barry Bonds.
Right.
Tito Francona and Terry Francona. Ken Griffey Sr. and Jr., Hal McRae and Brian McRae. Tony Perez and Eduardo Perez. Ducky Schofield and Dick Schofield.
No way.
Maury Wills and Bump Wills. And finally, Sandy Alomar Sr., Sandy Alomar Jr., and Robbie Alomar. He collected all of the Alomars. Unbelievable.
How
career.
happy does that Angel team make you? Make you? Like Doug DeCince and all those guys.
Oh, the best. Brian Downing.
Brian. One of the weirdest stances of all time.
That was the team the Red Sox beat on Dave Henderson's crazy ninth inning, 2-strike.
Yes.
2-run homer.
Yep. This was excellent, Mike. Thank you so much, and thanks for pointing out that Jerry West lost to the Celtics 6 consecutive years.
Six times.
Which is really all you wanted to hammer home.
That's right.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.